On this Friday night,
شجار واشتباك بالأيدي.
Saudi Arabia says yes, Jamal Khashoggi did die in its consulate in Turkey, but the story is a lot different from anything we've heard till now.
It's just been a wild, wild time. No one would have thought they would have seen in their lifetime.
Seizing a new business opportunity, delivering pot to the front door. We go along for the ride.
How stable or unstable is that particular chunk?
It's unstable. It could go at any time.
And a slow-motion landslide puts a BC community in harm's way. Residents are scrambling to protect their most precious things. We'll take you there. This is The National.
For more than 2 weeks, there have been accusations and denials, questions, but few answers. Until tonight, Saudi officials now say dissident journalist Jamal Khashoggi is dead. The result not of an assassination, but a fight. As the CBC's Stephen D'Souza tells us, their explanation is being met with intense skepticism.
وردنا الآن ما يلي.
Facing mounting international pressure to provide answers, today they came in a late-night broadcast on Saudi TV. For the first time, state officials confirmed that journalist Jamal Khashoggi is dead. They say Khashoggi got into a fight with a group of men who met him at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd. That fight led to his death. How? Officials didn't say. They did announce tonight that 18 Saudi nationals have been detained in connection with the death, and 2 high-ranking officials have been dismissed. The first, Ahmed Asiri, the deputy chief of intelligence. The second, Saud al-Qahtani, a close advisor of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, described by some as the prince's enforcer. Tonight, Saudi Arabia's official press agency tweeted that the kingdom is taking the necessary measures to clarify what happened and that those involved will be brought to justice.
I just don't think anyone is going to believe this. I think some may use it as a pretext to hope this story goes away, but it's just not plausible at all at any level.
The story leaves out key details. What happened to Khashoggi's body? Turkish investigators are searching a park where they believe his remains may have been dumped. And perhaps more importantly, what did the Crown Prince know about this?
In my experience, it's entirely unthinkable that this could have occurred without his direct knowledge, if not his direct ordering of this activity. He's a micromanager. You're for him or you're against him. I cannot see this happening without his direct involvement.
The Saudis say they're not finished. The investigation will continue, and they are restructuring how their intelligence agency operates. And that will be overseen by none other than Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He will have a month to report back to the king.
Okay, so Stephen, now that that claim is out there, the White House has heard it, has reacted to it. What's the president saying?
Well, the president is in Arizona tonight at an event with defense contractors, and he was asked whether he thought the Saudi story was credible, and he said that he did, and that he doesn't feel that he's being lied to by the Saudi royal family. He did say that he's going to call the Crown Prince to get some more information, and that this is a good first step, what we saw tonight. But he did talk a bit about the second step, which is something that's been hotly debated here in the U.S., and that is sanctions. Here's what he had to say about that.
We'll be working with Congress, but I would prefer, if there is going to be some form of sanction or what we may determine to do, if anything, because this was a lot of people they're talking about, and people pretty high up. But I would prefer that we don't use as retribution canceling $110 billion worth of work, which means 600,000 jobs.
Now, that contract that Trump is talking about, many have said that those aren't even actual contracts, just promises by the Saudis. But nevertheless, that's something he's been saying a lot for the last week or so in terms of how he thinks Saudi Arabia should be punished. He did lay it out quite plainly, the dilemma he's facing, that they need Saudi Arabia as a counterbalance in the Mideast to Iran. He said they appear close to solving a major problem, even though Adrian, some in his own party are saying that the story we heard tonight from Saudi Arabia simply isn't believable.
Right. Well, this isn't over yet. Thanks very much, Stephen. The CBC's Stephen D'Souza in New York tonight.
They are 4,000 strong, men, women, and children on a desperate trek. They've been walking for days with little more than the clothes on their backs, exhausted but determined. Today, at the border into Mexico, they met police with riot shields and pepper spray. Some got through, some did not, but all of them swear they will not give up until they reach the United States.
Yo me vine porque mi hija estaba perdida en la droga.
Karen Avila says she fled Honduras to save her daughter from drugs and gang violence. She's hoping to get into Mexico with her 2 oldest children, but left her 6 younger kids behind for their own safety. If all goes well, she plans to send the money from the U.S. Daniel Tremino is more defiant, held up at the Honduras-Guatemala border. He says the law guarantees his right to move around the whole of Central America, though he concedes he'll have trouble getting into Mexico. And Alfredo Dominguez is thinking strategically. He's avoided the main checkpoint at the Guatemala border altogether, favoring instead a shortcut to avoid police. Like so many others, Dominguez calls life in Honduras unbearable. Their stories, their caravan has laid bare the deep chasm between Democrats and Republicans on immigration issues, something the U.S. president and his party are using as a key piece of their midterm election strategy. Ellen Morrow tells us why keeping them out is seen as a political opportunity.
An arduous march, thousands weaving their way through Central America, their eyes on the American dream. God willing, the U.S. president will let us in, says this woman from Honduras. That is our proposal. But that won't happen. Without any proof, the president described the migrants like this.
Many of those people, a percentage, fairly big percentage of those people are criminals, and they want to come into our country.
Also without proof, Trump blamed the Democrats for the caravan.
We are about law and order and borders and jobs, and they are about allowing crime to enter our country with open borders.
For the president, it's about riling up his base before the midterms, less than 3 weeks away, and he's not alone.
Now, the Democrats taking the House will ensure that this caravan of 4,000 eventually becomes a flow of 4 million.
Fox News, Trump's network of choice, is also stoking fear.
This cannot happen.
The president continues to fearmonger around the issue of immigration.
Eager for their own gains in November, Democrats too are turning to immigration.
Unfortunately, he hasn't shown that he has any real solutions to the challenge of immigration. I believe that we can have effective border security and enforcement and also treat people humanely.
The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Trump has 4 midterm campaign rallies in the next 5 days. It's almost certain his anti-immigration rhetoric will only get louder as Americans prepare to vote. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
Here's what else we're working on tonight on The National. The endless pursuit of views and likes has YouTubers burning out. So why these content creators don't believe it when YouTube says it's okay to take a break.
Plus, 200 people wait and watch to see if they'll be allowed home or if a slow-moving landslide will destroy their town.
But first, across the country, police are starting to crack down on pot's gray market. Just a couple of days after cannabis hit the legal market, authorities are cracking down on competitors which are flouting the law.
If they're continuing to stay open under an illegal auspices, we will continue to close them down.
This pot shop in St. John's was raided last night by Newfoundland and Labrador liquor inspectors. Today, customers found the doors locked. As well, Toronto police officers hit several dispensaries today. Many users have been turning to unlicensed suppliers after the authorized retailers sold out, with both brick and mortar stores and online sellers struggling to keep up. That includes Manitoba, where the business model is a bit different from most of the country. One company there is aiming to deliver pot in an hour or less. The CBC's Cameron McIntosh shows us how it works.
He's no shady dial-a dealer. Courier Curtis Ling is bonded, reliable, and now delivering pot.
Did you expect to be this busy?
I knew there would be high demand, but I mean, coming in day one, I had no clue what to expect.
Take a slight right turn. He's fleet manager of Pineapple Express, a specialty courier dedicated to cannabis. In Winnipeg, it's just trying to keep up.
It's just been a wild, wild time. No one would have thought they would have seen in their lifetime.
Most provinces are offering online delivery in 1 to 5 days, mostly through government websites and Canada Post. Here in Manitoba, it works a little differently. Private stores can sell online. This one wants to be the first in Canada, delivering in under an hour. It's not quite there yet. Demand has been too high. 125,000 in online sales on its first day, so it's reallocating stock.
For a while, the online is going to be a huge part. It's probably going to be about half because, there just aren't a lot of stores.
This is Randy from Pineapple Express Delivery. How are you?
Randy Rolfe is Pineapple Express's founder, with a background developing online food delivery. As staff pack and track orders to government standards, he's basically inventing hour or less cannabis delivery in Delta 9's stockroom.
We're actually putting in different strategies into place that don't even exist.
This is a lot more complex than skip the dishes. This is not delivering pizza.
Nowhere in Canada is it legal to just leave a bag of pot on a doorstep or in a mailbox. Each delivery requires an ID check. Cars are unmarked for safety. Pineapple is hoping to eventually do this in other provinces. As a longtime courier, Ling knows this. Delivery only works when it's trusted.
I want to start a culture early with this team, and safety and security being one of the priorities.
Meanwhile, the orders keep pouring in. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And safety and security certainly a concern for legal grow operations as well. 4 workers of one Ontario operation were tied up during an armed robbery yesterday. It happened near Beaverton, Ontario. That's northeast of Toronto. Police say 5 suspects grabbed bags of dried marijuana. They got away in one of the workers' vehicles. There are serious questions tonight about the future of a community in northern British Columbia. Old Fort is home to about 200 people on the banks of the Peace River, about 400 kilometers north of Prince George. It's facing a scary and extremely unusual natural disaster, a landslide in slow motion. Here's the threat. The mountain above the community began to crumble at the end of September. It toppled power poles, pushed a house off its foundation, and cut the only road into town. For now, access is by boat only. Officials issued a mandatory evacuation order, and that gave residents a small window to grab what they could. Our Greg Rasmussen was there.
One of many families facing disaster, the only access now by boat. A brief trip to salvage a few necessities.
My stroller.
Stroller for the baby underneath there, hockey gear, clothes, a bunch of extra clothes.
The boat turns around, taking another group back to Old Fort. Paulette Blais had been living a peaceful retirement. Now her entire future is uncertain.
Here we go.
A neighbor takes her past deserted houses to her home, one of dozens under threat.
Baking pans. And I do a lot of baking at Christmas time.
With no power, she and her neighbors fear what will become of their homes when winter's -20 temperatures hit.
Was kind of looking around at the people on the boat, and you could just see the range of emotion and sadness and kind of, I don't know, you can't even describe that feeling.
Worried about losing everything, she grabs what's most important.
Just trying to figure out which photos I still want to take with me.
Penny is a friend of mine's dog that...
Some are defying the mandatory evacuation order despite the threat of arrest.
Nobody yet from the government said how they're going to keep our home secure.
But officials insist he and a handful of other defiant residents should leave. They say it's a highly unusual disaster.
We're not sure exactly what caused it, but we're seeing the effects. Where the trees are is the initial slide. This gives you a really good idea of what's left to happen.
Not just one, but several related landslides. An entire section of mountain has sheared off and could bury the town.
Material starts to come down. And
huge slabs of ground continue to move, meaning it's all but impossible to rebuild the town's only access road.
Rebuilding this, Greg, is going to be a challenge. It's not an easy task, and this is what Mother Nature's given us. It's not an easy problem to fix. So
Now, a few more possessions safeguarded, Paulette Blais can turn her thoughts to the future.
I'm leaving my home, but if I lose my house, I guess you start over and you build a new home. You know, your heart has to be in your home, so.
It's an emotional day, I guess, right?
Oh, it's extremely emotional. I'm trying to hold it back right now, but yeah, it's tough. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Take care.
Despite a long history, residents can only wonder if there's a future here in the shadows of the treacherous hills above.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Old Fort, BC.
And just this evening, some good news for residents. The BC Transportation Ministry says crews will start to build a temporary road. It could be ready over the next 3 weeks.
Some other stories we're watching tonight on The National. One of the alleged victims of accused killer Bruce McArthur was laid to rest in Toronto today. Salim Essen's family spoke publicly for the very first time.
It's been since last January that we've been waiting for to bring it to a proper closure. So this today has been that closure.
It was in January that McArthur was charged with murder in Essen's death. He'd last been seen alive in April of 2017. Essen's family says he came to Canada from Turkey because he wasn't happy there living as a gay man.
What makes me feel good to hear the positive stories from his friends, his braveness, his courage to meet new people, to settle in a new life. So that makes me feel better.
McArthur is charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder. Many of his alleged victims had ties to Toronto's gay village, and this case has led to police creating, incredibly, the city's first ever missing persons unit.
Hopefully we'll be able to better bridge the gap and say, you know, we've located the person or we know who that person is with one phone call as opposed to 17 phone calls across the city.
That unit was launched quietly in July, and the team is said to be looking back over every missing persons case since 1990. Previously, the force's divisions just didn't share information about such investigations with each other or outside agencies. Missing persons units have existed in a number of other cities for years.
Still ahead tonight on The National, Louis C.K. is attempting a comedy comeback, but after admitting to sexual misconduct in the midst of the Me Too movement, should his audience give him another shot? The Pop panel is here to talk it out.
Plus, 2 former soldiers joined Team Canada in the Invictus Games to help them heal from the trauma of sexual assaults they endured while serving.
And making a living on YouTube. The pressure to constantly post new content has some creators tapping out.
I just remember feeling always stressed. Like there was never a time where I felt relaxed. I always felt numb, but at the same time I felt like, I just felt extremely unhappy.
And the Streaming Award goes to Superwoman!
Think of them as the Oscars of the internet. The 8th annual Streamy Awards are this coming Monday, bringing together the biggest YouTube stars and online entertainers.
Today, my mom and I are going to switch roles.
Among this modern-day constellation of nominees, a YouTuber from Ottawa, Elle Mills.
I invited your exes over for a slumber party.
Videos like this have earned her a massive following, sometimes because they're so fun, and sometimes
but I have this heavy weight on my chest.
Because they're so honest.
Hi, I'm Elle Mills, and I'm bisexual.
But that honesty and the constant pressure to keep delivering, to keep posting something new, came at a price. Eli Glasner has more on Mills' very public breakdown and why there are many others just like her.
When I first started making videos...
Growing up, Elle Mills dreamt of becoming a YouTube star. After years of work, her cheeky videos started getting traction. But as her subscriber count grew, so did her anxiety.
This is all I ever wanted. And why the am I so unhappy?
Then Mills shared a decidedly different video called Burnt Out at 19.
Physically, I just remember feeling always stressed. Like there was never a time where I felt relaxed. I always felt numb, but at the same time I felt like I just felt extremely unhappy.
Mills isn't alone. In the last 6 months, a number of high-profile YouTubers have gone public about their anxiety, and many have stepped away from the platform.
Mental health is so much more important than anything else.
We need to take care of in our lives beyond YouTube.
After 6 years of daily vlogging, this YouTuber is trying to post less.
There's something about the platform. It rewards you for uploading as often as possible. It's almost become like this conveyor belt of like becoming like a vlog factory where you're just pushing out videos in order to stay afloat.
What can you do to change this? It's almost like a cycle you're now trapped in.
We try to provide, our creators with as much, support as possible.
YouTube says they've launched other services to help creators, such as paid memberships to take the pressure off posting. The support includes YouTube's own wellness videos telling creators it's okay to stop.
At some point I was just like, I just can't go on. So I decided that I needed a mandatory day off.
It had over 4 million likes.
This vlogger with the group Ladylike has seen what happens when you take time off. Ladylike's videos regularly generate about 1 million views a week. But after they took a week off, a flashy series of superhero videos suffered.
Each video was getting like 200,000 or 300,000 views in a week. Yeah, so it definitely made a difference for us.
Part of the pressure on creators is YouTube's rapid growth. Each month, 1.9 billion users log on. It now reaches more 18 to 34-year-olds in the US than any TV network. As the once scrappy platform matures, the focus is on keeping the advertisers happy.
We want brands to be as successful as possible. We want creators to be as successful as possible. Like, if that's not happening, then, everyone's going to be losing, including us.
For Mills, she's getting better about tearing herself away. Like many creators, she'd like to see YouTube put a greater emphasis on mental health.
Some people are able to make like a comeback. Some people, after they burn out, they're done, But yeah, it happens to everyone. It comes with the job, unfortunately.
An occupational hazard for a platform still evolving. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead tonight on The National, Louis C.K. is getting back on the comedy stage, but should he be allowed back, given the sexual misconduct he admitted to, and if he should, has enough time passed? The Pop panel's here to break it all down.
And how the Invictus Games is changing the lives of 2 women who were sexually assaulted during their time in the military.
I really need to stop seeing the mess, and I need to start seeing this athlete. And I'm gonna call myself that. I am an athlete. I am on this team.
Last week, comedian Louis C.K. appeared on stage at New York City's Comedy Cellar with some new material.
Some people are shocked that he thinks he's done enough time in the penalty box.
It's admitting to sexual misconduct, about how everybody hates him now. But honestly, boo-hoo. I'm Sarah Bosveld, senior writer for Chatelaine.
I'm Stephen Marsh, random Toronto writer.
I'm Donovan Bennett, host and staff writer for Sportsnet. Louis C.K.'s return brings us back to a central question brought up by Me Too. How do we deal with men who have committed misconduct? Is there a way for them to come back?
The problem with social media shaming as a form of power is that ultimately it's totally unsatisfying. It doesn't really get us to a sense of justice having been achieved, and it really doesn't give anyone a chance to atone because there's no punishment.
I'm not saying Louis C.K. shouldn't ever work again. I'm just saying that these guys who are coming back now should really stop painting themselves as the victims here.
I think the Me Too movement has seriously overrated how much ordinary people care about the morality of artists.
So Louis C.K. beginning the comeback and popping up in New York City comedy clubs. He's finally starting to address the sexual misconduct that derailed his career last year. So how does a comedian do that? Well, by making jokes. But the question is it too soon? Donovan.
Yeah, I don't want to be the guy who comes on here every week and talks about precedent, but I'm going to talk about precedent again.
Judge Donovan.
Right, apparently, yeah. The pop culture Supreme Court, because it's a slippery slope, and I don't want to be a part of a culture where we are putting people on exile island, and he should be able to work his craft. Is 10 months enough time? 10 years? And we're going to give him the same penalty that we give Les Moonves or Charlie Rose? Who's deciding all of this? I'm uncomfortable with us saying, well, the comedy clubs should now be gatekeepers for moral behavior.
So you feel they should put him on stage at these comedy clubs if he wants to be there?
I think if it was Donovan's comedy club, I think there would be a set of questions I would ask. What are you going to talk about? Maybe the joke about rape whistles, not appropriate given why your name was in the news last. But I don't think I would start from a place of no and be outraged at the thought that he's trying to do what he's good at. Like, would we have an issue if he wanted to be a Walmart greeter like Jeffrey Owens? He should be able to do whatever he pleases if he's not behind bars.
So you also, Sarah, if you were the head of the comedy club, although that's a disapproving look you're giving us.
But I was giving you some kind of look.
You also would talk to Louis C.K. if you ran the comedy club, and he would have to satisfy you that he deserves a chance to be on stage.
Well, I think so, and I just think that it is the way he's come back so far has been making material out of his misfortune, and I think that is far and away, separate from the whole point of this, which is that he behaved in such a ludicrous way. He acknowledged it, which a lot of men in the whole Me Too moment had not done. He apologized in a way that was like, I'm sorry if I offended you kind of thing. And I think he's totally great to come back and work. I don't think we should be exiling him either, but I do think that he should be doing a lot more to show that he is acknowledging and doing the work to not be that guy anymore. Instead though, and a lot of men have been doing this, they've been saying, oh, poor me, I've been victimized by this moment that we're in. And I think that removes us from the point of why we're in this moment to begin with, which is that these guys really shouldn't have been behaving that way to begin with. And I think some learning is really important to show that you've been really kind of trying to do better. I don't think he's doing that by making jokes out of his own misfortune and victimhood.
Well, let's put in a voice from one of the victims, and she was a victim because Louis C.K. has admitted to his sexual misconduct. This is a statement she put out. Boo effing who? Is he on unemployment? Does he get rape threats? Does he carry a brand new taser when he walks at night because he's been told that he'll be beaten to a pulp for ruining comedy? No, just us girls? Okay, cool. I mean, Stephen, you hear that emotion?
Yeah. No, and I mean, the problem here is that the natural response to all this is despair, because she's absolutely right. Like, he's back on stage. He hasn't done anything to compensate for his crime, but this is kind of the nature of a public shaming moment. Right? Like a public shaming movement. Like, there is no justice. There is no, because it's also on social media, nothing he could say would satisfy anyone, right?
But she's not satisfied, right?
Well,
Maybe he could have had a conversation with her.
No one can be
been
satisfied.
A lot more
because there's
transparent about that.
because there's no justice, because there's no process for atonement, because there's no process for punishment, there's also no process for atonement. So really, no one can ever possibly be satisfied. And it leaves everyone just absolutely flummoxed with what to do about these men who have not paid any real, I don't really believe, any price that is commensurate with their actions. Whether they're, what position do they hold in society? We don't really know, because we're operating strictly on shame.
Well, what I'm concerned with is that people are...
We do have power.
We don't.
We have power. If everyone got up and left that comedy club, he wouldn't be going on tour anymore.
If we're talking about the marketplace, like, the marketplace doesn't care about any of this.
So just put pause on that for a sec. But you were going to jump in, and then we'll come back to what you were saying. What did you
I think
say?
that people demand some transparency, and I think that and you have to. And I think you make a good point about precedent, but there is context with every single individual and every single person. I think a really responsible thing to do would be like, look, I don't really want to continue to be part of the problem here. I actually do want to be part of the solution and make things better for women. What has he been doing to make things better for women in comedy? Nothing.
If you said that it might satisfy you, there would be 200,000 other people that would be appalled by those statements.
But he's also now capitalizing on the fact that there are a lot of people who are just appalled that he's been publicly shamed. Because we actually do value men's reputations and their ability to make a livelihood more than we value real feelings about women being, subject to violence and not being able to progress in society in their careers in really meaningful ways. I think that's just a fact.
But I think we're actually in agreement. We're just coming from different sides. She should feel outraged, but to me, she should feel outraged on people if he were to have another Netflix special. Who bought it? Chris Brown is still making music.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
he's still making. We're still buying it. We're still singing the songs, even though some of the lyrics, those H's aren't loyal, aren't something that someone who's created real assault should be seen. So we should hold people accountable. Should we hold Ticketmaster accountable? Live Nation? Where are we going to start that? Should Drake not bring him on stage? These are the questions we should be having.
When Cosby gets out of jail, he will do a comedy show and it will sell out.
Well,
that is the reality of
I don't know if he's getting out of jail.
So there's that. But also interestingly, the New York Times interviewed the owner of the Comedy Cellar, the club in New York where Louis C.K. first appeared, and it sounded to me like the owner said, although he doesn't like drawing lines, he would draw a line and not allow Cosby on stage. Let's stop for a second though, because keep in mind it's not just Louis C.K. It's Matt Lauer, it's Charlie Rose, it's a handful of other people who have been either accused of or found guilty of or admitted to misconduct. And society's got to figure out, the entertainment world has to figure out how to bring them back. And one of those people banished from pop culture is Roseanne Barr. This week we saw her rebooted program come back. I guess it's not her program anymore. What's it called? Connors, I guess?
Connors, yeah. Connors.
What do you think the lesson is of this program coming back without her after she sent out a tweet that many people found offensive? Stephen?
Well, I mean, it is kind of to your point, like men can be forgiven, but she cannot.
Yeah.
But it's also that, I mean, there is a difference in the sense that it was never that the market didn't want her, it's just that people wouldn't work with her, right? Like that's what caused the breakdown of this show. I mean, the thing that's really interesting about it is that it's so successful. And I mean, I attribute it in part because there's just no poor people on, like the only place other than this show where you can see poor people on television is Cops, right? Like those
reality TV.
Reality television, but not even reality, because reality television is like people in huge mansions giving each other roses.
Fair enough.
So like this is, the real invisibility in the marketplace is poor people. And so I think, it's very interesting that, the person who headlined that show would actually be the one who's casted to real outer darkness.
Because I want to get to one last topic, 30 seconds each on the lessons of Roseanne.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I did take a double take when they said the Connors are coming back, and obviously they have to honor the contracts of the people who've already agreed to work there. But I'm kind of with Stephen on that front, where I think the ratings for Roseanne when it first came back were through the roof. Trump commented on how great the ratings were, and he, there's a lot of awareness that a lot of his supporters were like that show as well. So people felt seen with that show, and I think the networks, who are also competing with Netflix and a lot of prestige television, are really doubling down and saying this is still worth doing and still worth pursuing.
I say all the time, representation matters in media. And when I say that, I'm often talking about minorities. But if I'm consistent, it also means for conservatives, for people in the middle of America. And I think the success of this show and why it still exists without her is because, for once, in the arts, we are seeing conservatives and that family dynamic being celebrated.
I owe Rosemary Barton also, I think it's $5, because I bet that one of the 400 channels out there would have brought Roseanne back with her own show, and so far it hasn't happened. I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, we really only have 10 seconds each for this. We're not going to talk about pot, other than to ask you of your favorite kind of stoner character in pop culture.
When you said favorite, I wasn't sure where you were going.
That's right. Your choice?
To me, it's not a character, it's a person. It's Dave Chappelle, who, we're talking about pot being normalized. He's been doing that for a while. The movie Half Baked was pretty much about that. And even though I'm not a user, I feel like I understand the culture thanks to Chappelle.
Willie Nelson, Carter administration, White House. I don't think I need to say any more.
Very nice. Sarah?
That was so on brand for me. It's like a country star. No, but I'm going to say The Big Lebowski, The Dude Abides, and also it's a good tagline for our whole pop culture panel is like, that's just your opinion, man, is like the best quote of his ever. So that's what I say to all of us.
And as a university student from the 1980s, there's really only one choice for me, Spicoli, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
There you go.
And so we'll just think about those characters as we fade to black here. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure.
Later on The National, a 96-year-old Second World War veteran thought he was just watching an air show in Moose Jaw today, but the Canadian Forces Snowbirds had a very different plan.
I have a close association with the Snowbirds, and I've seen been to all the air shows. Wouldn't it be great if someday I could become an honorary snow member? And here, behold, today I'm an honorary snow member.
And in case you missed it.
Oh, cannabis, I'm staring at my hand.
Surprise, surprise, comedians kept the pot jokes coming this week. What with Canada's historic legalization of recreational cannabis, you could tell Stephen Colbert and company were having a pretty good time.
There's going to be a lot of pot tourism, and Canada is ready to attract visitors with this new ad.
Canada has something for everyone. So visit today, because who knows if we'll be here tomorrow. You know, it's like our brains are clouds and they're just floating above the answers. Hey, haven't we seen that moose before?
The Daily Show with Trevor Noah also couldn't resist.
I just assumed that they were already high all the time up there. I mean, have you seen their horses? What the
Oh boy. And of course, the good folks at this hour is 22 Minutes. Just had to get in there too, if a little more critically.
The rules are clear and simple. To smoke weed legally in Canada, you just need to be 18, except for in BC, the Maritimes, and Ontario, where it's 19, and in Quebec, where it's 21. See? Simple.
Saudi Arabia has been a great ally, but what happened is unacceptable.
Tonight on The National, we're following developments on our top story. That was Donald Trump responding to the confirmation from Saudi officials that journalist Jamal Khashoggi is dead. They say he got into a fight with a group of men at the consulate in Turkey, and that fight led to his death.
They're saying there was a fight, but that's a theory that was put out. But they're going to be giving us a full report. But they have arrested a large number of people, and good first step.
Saudi Arabian officials say 2 high-ranking officials have been dismissed. 18 Saudi nationals have been detained. Also tonight, the man who pleaded guilty to murdering 6 people last year at a Quebec City mosque had his sentencing pushed back again. Today, the judge in Alexandre Bissonnette's case said he still has unanswered questions and may not be ready until January. Bissonnette also pleaded guilty to 6 counts of attempted murder. And Prince Harry spent his day charming the people of Sydney, Australia, where just hours from now, the Invictus Games are set to begin. Lots of fun obviously had on Bondi Beach, but Harry is also keen on spreading a serious message about mental health. He founded the Games to give purpose and fellowship to former soldiers who were wounded or traumatized during their service.
To hear Prince Harry say that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's just going to show people all around the world, no matter how good their family is, no matter where they're from, it's okay to reach out for help.
2 Canadian women are among the 500 people set to compete. They're keen to move past the sexual trauma they suffered in the Canadian Forces. Before they left, they spoke with the CBC's Carolyn Dunn about what they've endured and how these games might help heal their invisible wounds.
MJ Batek powers through another training session in the pool. Just last fall, the idea of competing in the Invictus Games was unthinkable for this mother of 2.
I'm not an athlete, like I'm broken. Like I have days that I have a hard time getting down my stairs.
Batek is a military veteran with PTSD. Her injuries don't stem from combat, but rather sexual and domestic assault she suffered in the service.
It's completely debilitating terror.
She met Major Donna Rigadel at a Wounded Warriors retreat in Banff. The two joined the private Facebook page called It's Just 700. It was created when a commission of inquiry into military sexual misconduct issued a report based on the accounts of 700 alleged victims. Its creator, Marie-Claude Gagnon, says it was backlash from Canadian Forces members that was most hurtful.
Some people got into distress. There was suicide attempts that night, so that's why I decided that night, very late, to create a group.
It was Rigadel who convinced Batek to apply for the Invictus Games with her. And as their long-distance friendship deepened, Batek told Rigadel that as a 17-year-old reservist, she was sexually assaulted, allegedly at the hands of a course instructor.
And he grabbed me, and he, kissed me and groped me. I mean, this is a big man, and I will never forget what he looks like.
It was hauntingly familiar to Rigadel, who says her basic training course instructor first asked, then demanded oral sex.
I'm your master corporal, and I'm ordering you to give me a blowjob. And I'm sitting there, and I looked over at the driver, and he kind of glanced, and then he went back to the road.
The two women compared notes and discovered they'd had the same instructor, but it was they who paid the price, shunned by some peers, even given cruel nicknames. Patek went on to train to become one of the first female officers in the artillery. At the Royal Military College, she thought the culture would be different, a thought that evaporated when another woman handed her a coat hanger and counseled,
This is how you lock your door. You use this coat hanger and you lock your door, because if you don't, a fourth year will come in here after they've been drinking at the pub and they're going to rape you.
With a crippling lack of self-confidence, MJ Patek says she entered into a volatile marriage that was even worse when it ended. Her estranged husband showed up at her home drunk, depressed, with a rifle.
And I could hear the rifle load. I know what bolt action sounds like. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to die.
Her ex-husband was convicted of criminal harassment and unlawful use of a firearm. Donna Rigadel says she was twice more the victim of sexual misconduct. In Shiloh, Manitoba, she and an embedded journalist were changing into workout gear when the journalist whispered to her,
There's a man in here. And I said, what? She said, there's a man in here and he's watching us in the mirror and he's masturbating.
Rigadel would go on to tell her story to the military brass and join the ongoing Operation Honor as a member of the team trying to stem endemic sexual misconduct in the military. At 42, Rigadel knows she's not a front runner for a medal in any of her events.
I'd like to be able to say that at the end of it that I've left everything out there.
MJ Patek figures she's already won. Her training schedule has demanded she come out of her somewhat isolated existence. And when the Australian National Veterans Arts Museum made a call for submissions, Patek picked up a paintbrush for the first time in years. Her self-portrait was chosen for display. She used to see herself as that messy image in the water.
I really need to stop seeing the mess, and I need to start seeing this athlete. And I'm gonna call myself that. I am an athlete. I am on this team.
She and her friend Donna Rigadel, athletes, survivors. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, Cochrane, Alberta.
And next up is our moment of the day. But first, a sneak peek at our Sunday interview. Rob Stewart is a Canadian filmmaker whose life passion was to protect sharks, but he died doing what he loved. So I sat down with his parents to talk about their journey to finish the film their son started. I understand how you were able to put the movie together, but I'm not sure I understand why you wanted to put the movie together. I mean, you very easily could have taken all that footage, put it in a safe somewhere, and walked away.
Yeah. Not if you knew Rob.
It was, the issue's important. It was really important to Rob, and the message is one that I think the world needs to see. And we just felt compelled that we had to finish it. It was
that was never an option, I think, in our minds. I mean, it was really difficult the first month because Rob's body couldn't come back to Canada for weeks. We didn't know what to do about a funeral. We didn't know any of those things. And going through that, and then realizing that he died doing something he loved to do, and he was on a mission, we couldn't not finish it.
Meet Reg Crash Harrison. The 96-year-old veteran got that nickname because he survived not one but 4 different plane crashes during the Second World War. Over the decades, he's received many honors, but he got another one today, and things were a little bit different. First, it was honorary membership in the Snowbirds. Secondly, it was a surprise. And finally, it's our moment.
Well, I often said to my families I have a close association with the Snowbirds, and I've seen all the air shows. Wouldn't it be great if someday I could become an honorary snow member?
We couldn't think of a better person who's survived 13 Allied bombing missions over occupied Europe and 4 airplane crashes. It feels like more of an honor for us to welcome him in and have him on board than I would imagine it is for him.
I'm both grateful for having received this great honor, because every time I see the snowbirds perform, it always amazes me what they can do, because we certainly couldn't do that with the Halifax and Lancaster.
Yeah, I suppose not. So I love every aspect of the story. I mean, particularly the surprise, right? He thought he was just going to see an air show in Moose Jaw in Saskatchewan, and then they sprung this honorary membership onto him. So what a great story.
And I love him in his uniform. He also, it's funny that, his nickname is Crash. Surviving 4 plane crashes is not so funny, but he has a great sense of humor, because he apparently told the reporters he always figured he'd come back to Canada and just, be hit by a bus or something, but so good.
All of this gives us a chance to salute the bomber squadron. It was the most dangerous place to be in the armed forces during the Second World War. I was just looking up his particular squadron. It had 7 commanding officers in the last 3 years of the war. Of those 7, 2 were killed in action. 1 was taken as a prisoner of war. So his ability to survive was incredible, and he sure looks good in his 90s. That is The National for October the 19th. Good night.
Good night.